Good evening to all our viewers at home and welcome to our insightful show again, the Change Masters series. I'm your host, Witumila Pumayo, and for tonight we'll be discussing how do you create readiness for change in an organization. As Warren Bennis said, good leaders make people feel that they're at the very heart of things and not at the periphery. Everyone feels that they are making a difference to the success of the organization. When that happens, people feel centered and that makes their work meaningful. So briefly, what is change management? Well, it is defined as those activities involved in defining and instilling values, attitudes, norms, and behaviors within an organization that support new ways of doing work, and most importantly, overcoming resistance emanating from that change. In today's fast-changing world where very little remains constant, how do organizations create this readiness for change, and what methods are available to management to effect this change? You can manage change in one or two ways: top-down approach and the open source approach. So our guests tonight have conducted extensive research around these two topics and believe the open source approach to be the most effective in helping organizations be ready for change. So in studio today, we are joined by two change management experts who have done extensive work. And we've got on our panel, Dev Naidu and Chanel Sparks. Guys, welcome to the show tonight. It's good to have you here. And let's get right onto it. So Chanel, in your view, as a change agent for the open source strategy, what are the key and fundamental and differentiators of the open source strategy?
Thank you, Tumi. According to a survey done by CEB in 2016, it indicates that only 34% of organizations are successful when it comes to implementing change. Therefore, creating readiness for change is important for most organizations. When we speak about the open source strategy, it focuses on three principles as well as three building blocks. The first one being co-creating the strategy. So what does that mean? It means that you involve employees in co-creating the strategy for change. Secondly, we focus on implementation. And thirdly, we focus on communication. So the challenge for most organizations is that leaders do not know which employees to involve, at what stage, as well as how to create that involvement. So we've worked with a company called Red Hat, and they've created an open decision framework, which basically assists managers in deciding whom to involve. So typical questions that managers would ask during this process is, which employees would mostly be affected by change? And also, will those employees resist the change process? Secondly, we also help managers decide which employees to involve, because it's important that you actually choose the right employees. And thirdly, managers are held accountable for the decision making. So managers are held accountable by their peers, and peers ask tough questions in terms of why is this decision important and why are we implementing the change.
So Dev, evidence indicates that the reason why change management fails is as a result of implementing change top-down. So how does the open source approach then actually create a success in implementing change?
Thank you, Tumi. With the open source approach, the key is implementation planning. Implementation planning needs to move away from managers and leaders and towards employees. What we found is that when it moves away from managers and leaders, the success rate is a lot better. So a few companies have done this quite successfully. Philips, Salesforce, Integron have all done this quite successfully. Salesforce has a tool called the V2MOM tool: vision, values, obstacles, methods, and measures. So what they've done is they've created this toolkit which asks questions to the employees by their managers and leaders. And it helps them understand what the goal of the change is, what the success factors of the change is, any obstacles that the employees might find in implementing this change, and lastly, networks, etc., that they can tap into to understand the change better.
Shadab, how can managers communicate change more effectively in creating this readiness for change? What are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Tumi, for the question, and that is so important. In creating readiness for change, employee buy-in and employee engagement is important as part of this. So when we speak about communication during the change management process, it's important that we don't only tell employees about the change, but we actually talk them through the change process. So what we do as part of the open source strategy is, when we talk through the change, first of all, we support peer-to-peer interactions, so that peers are actually able to exchange ideas in terms of the change management process. Secondly, we don't only focus on the positive outcomes of change, but we also focus on the negative emotions for change, because as you know, there's a lot of resistance when it comes to change. So we have to focus on those negative emotions and actually how we can overcome those challenges.